Hi, my name is Shery Pitman, and I'd like to welcome you to another segment of Survive and Thrive with Shery. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very special guest. Her name is Kim Connor. Kim is the author and producer of a couple of movies, and she has another one in the mix already. Her first movie is This Life Ain't Pretty, and her second movie is called Jump In. Jump In will be ready hopefully sometime this fall or late summer even. But This Life Ain't Pretty has already been produced and won awards as well. So we're going to jump right in and say thank you very much, Kim. Appreciate you joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Shery.
You're welcome. Well, so This Life Ain't Pretty, one of your movies, and then the other one, Jump In, and then you have a third one that's in the mix. But This Life Ain't Pretty is based on a true story.
It is.
A relative of yours actually had a disease and went through some changes. Lots of things went on. We talk about marriage on the show, and this cousin was married, correct?
Right.
Would you go ahead and give us a little bit of background?
Absolutely. The film, as you said, is based on a true story. It's about my first cousin, and that is something that she dealt with. She was actually diagnosed with HIV. After she had been married for a number of years, she learned that she had the disease.
Now, you said they had been married for a total of roughly 10 years?
Yes.
And you said this is your first cousin, so is this your mother and her mother are sisters?
Yeah, twins, as a matter of fact.
Oh my gosh, is that right?
Yeah, there was a period she was raised with us too. She was an only child, so she spent a lot of time with us.
Okay, were you an only child too?
No, I have one sister.
You have one sister. So you're a pretty close group though.
Oh yeah.
So this cousin gets married and she has children. One son. And somewhere in the process she discovers that she has HIV. And as a result of that, is the relationship, and let me just clarify for the audience, your cousin is currently in her resting place.
Correct.
Okay, so tell us what drove you to want to do the movie about her life.
Okay. For me, it was an eye-opening experience to see someone that, like her, to be diagnosed with HIV, because she didn't fit the criteria of what people tend to think you have to be or do in order to get the disease. She didn't fit that.
Homosexual or...
Right.
Okay.
Drug use, promiscuity. She didn't fit the criteria in any of those areas. So, like I said, it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me, and it was the first time that I knew someone
so close
that contracted this disease, that didn't do any of the things that people tend to think you have to do to get it. So
do you remember how you found out?
She actually called me. She
so actually
it was a
phone
called
call.
Me. It was a phone call.
And where were you?
I can't remember exactly where I was at, but I will always remember the phone call. Initially, it was denial.
What did she say to you? Was she calm? Was she upset?
She was calm. She was calm, and I think now that maybe she had known a little while before she actually felt comfortable enough to share with the family. So she had time to, I think, come to terms with it before she shared it with us.
Were you one of the first members of the family that she shared it with?
Yes.
Or were you the first?
I wasn't the first. I think my grandmother was the first.
Okay. Okay. Which would have been her grandmother as well.
Right.
Okay. So she called you on the phone. She tell you to sit down?
I don't remember specifically. I know remembering that I knew it was something serious. Okay. I could tell it was something serious. I don't recall her sobbing or anything at that point, but I could just tell her demeanor. I could tell that it was serious.
So what do you remember about it?
I just basically remember her telling me I went to the doctor and my test came back positive for HIV. I remember that.
Has she shown any sign of sickness at that point?
None.
And was your head spinning as to how she can have HIV?
Absolutely. Naturally, I went to denial, which I think is what a lot of people do. I just didn't believe that. I figured there had to be a mistake in the hospital, some way, somehow, this could be explained. But
and
that
so
wasn't the
you
case.
Challenged her at that time?
I did, and she was adamant about it. You know, I don't know if I'm assuming they probably did a follow-up.
They had already
test.
double-checked. And so how did that conversation end?
I think for a while I was in denial. You know, I don't know if I actually, you know, I may have expressed that to her, that I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So shock, I think, first and foremost, and it took a while for it to set in even then, because she didn't look sick.
Right, right. So do you recall the first time that you felt kind of that, oh my gosh, this is really happening feeling, and it started to soak in? Tell me about that.
It was probably about, we were actually all together for a funeral for another relative that passed away unexpectedly. And it was just something about that visit with her that I knew that it was different. Even then, she wasn't like really ill, but there was just something about her color. I knew that I guess that's when I was able to, I finally had to accept and come to terms with it, that I knew it and I had to accept it. And it wasn't much longer. It was probably maybe a month or so later that she passed away.
That was really quick. So let me get this right. From the time that you accepted and was coming out of denial, it was only about a month and a half. That's a short period of time.
It took some time. It took some time because she had been living with it. After she told us, she lived another 4 years.
Okay. Okay. So during those 4 years, you were still pretty hopeful and positive that, yeah, she's going to be okay. She's going to be all right. But at that particular funeral, within a month and a half of her getting ready to exit, you saw with your own eyes that there was something seriously different.
Absolutely.
And that this is not pretty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So she passed, and was it easy for you to talk about it after that?
No.
What was the most difficult thing to talk about? What kept you from being able to talk?
I think that a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were so close. And that's the first time that I lost someone that close to me, that young. She passed away. She was 26.
Very young.
So, yeah.
You were just in shock.
Yeah.
So it would be years later, or how many years later before you would begin to write this story?
She passed away in '97, and that is when I'd say probably 6 months into when I found out. When she told me,
okay,
is when I started writing the script.
So you started writing earlier on. Even the first year you were writing about it.
Yes.
So even though you didn't really believe it, you still had started writing about
I started writing. Let me paraphrase. I started writing not that particular story, but I started screenwriting at that point, because it was at that point that I realized, just going through that experience with her, losing her at that age, it made me think for the first time, life is short. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? That was the first time that I asked myself that question.
I see.
And at that point is when I started writing a script. It took me several years before I was able to write the script about her.
So you started writing a different script.
A different script initially.
So the whole bit about her potentially dying, even though she didn't really look like it, it still jolted you into a place of, I better get busy living what I want to live, because nobody knows when this is going to all be over.
Absolutely.
And whatever I want to do, I better get busy doing it. And one of those things was to do screenwriting.
Exactly.
Now, I'm showing my ignorance. Screenwriting and script writing, one and the same?
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
All right.
Yep.
Just for our audience, for the rest of us who didn't know exactly what that was.
Yeah.
So you began to write, and did you write about anything in particular?
My first script, I guess, was kind of about what I was learning about finding passion.
Okay. Okay.
Happiness and joy in life.
Yes.
You know, the things that are important to us, family. It started changing my focus, so I began to write about things like that.
Okay. So how far did you get into the screenwriting?
It took me probably, as far as the first script, I wrote that, I worked on it for 1.5 years.
Did you finish it?
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of minutes, what would you project it to be?
About an hour and a half.
About an hour and a half?
Yeah,
so it'd be a full
feature.
feature. Did it ever get recorded?
That is actually Jump In, the film that we're working on now.
Oh
that was my first script.
Okay, we're supposed to talk about that on the last half, but that's okay. I didn't know that. I kind of walked straight into that. Mm-hmm. Well, so she passes, but you have already started to write about her story. And you told me earlier that it was actually therapeutic for you to write about it because it was so difficult to talk about.
Absolutely.
And then later you found that it was therapeutic to watch it. When you watched the movie after it was done, This Life Ain't Pretty, what were some of the things you saw that were therapeutic for you?
I guess it was real when I wrote it, but it became even more real when I actually got an opportunity to see these actors acting out these scenes, and it was events and things that actually took place. So that it was something to actually see them bring it to life, the story.
Did you have more empathy, or did you see characters that in the movie, did they make you think of the real life characters slightly different?
Yes, and that was my hope. And then I had to make sure that I did a good job, I guess, in terms of describing the character to the actor, so that they know, what it is that I'm looking for, what this character is actually about, what they represent, that kind of thing.
Did you have, like in real life, a character or two, I'm assuming the husband, that you maybe didn't have as favorable thoughts about, that maybe did they change any as a result of doing the movie?
It did, because her husband, I was very angry for a long time. I have to be honest about that. I was very upset.
You lost someone very important to you.
Right, and it was something that was 100% preventable. You know what I mean? And
why do you say it's 100% preventable?
Because we can protect ourselves from this disease.
The wife, the husband, who would be doing the protecting here? Because evidently she didn't know.
She didn't. I mean, I guess it goes back to part of the reason why we're here, upholding the marriage in the first place.
Okay.
To me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Is something that's very important, and I had to come to terms with, and my mom even had to sit down and talk to me because I was angry at him for so long. She said, well, the same thing that he did to her, he did to himself. And it just took a little while for me to actually get that. So yeah, I was angry for a while, but after some time passed and I made the movie, and I guess part of just maturing, I was able to forgive him.
Good deal, good deal. That sounds like a great place for us to take a break and go to commercial. So we're going to be back in just a moment. We're going to take a break. We hope that you're enjoying hearing Kim Connor's story about This Life Ain't Pretty. We're going to talk about Jump In when we come back on the next segment, and we look forward to catching up with you then. So don't go away. Stay with us. Hi, my name is Shery Pitman, and I'd like to just welcome and invite you to join us in watching Survive and Thrive with Shery. We like to talk about marriages and a variety of other things as well. And we just want you to join us. If you have any comments or questions, you can find us on Facebook. We would love to hear your thoughts about shows. If you'd like to be a guest, we would love for you to contact us that way as well. Thank you. Well, hi, we're back with Kim Connor, and we're talking about the movie Jump In, which Kim has written and produced. It will be available this summer, fall. When will it be available?
Late summer.
Late summer. So we hope you all take the time to jump in and watch Jump In. So Kim, you were telling us in the first segment that Jump In, actually, you started writing that movie prior to writing This Life Ain't Pretty,
yes.
But it was a result of what had happened. Is that correct?
That's
that it was
correct.
A result of what had happened with your cousin?
Absolutely.
So Jump In was kind of a statement in response to, oh my goodness, my cousin is about to leave, and I don't know when I'm going to leave, so whatever I'm going to do, I best be about doing it now.
Absolutely.
And consequently Jump In. So tell us more about the writing of Jump In.
Jump In is it's my first script, the first script I ever sat down to write. I started writing it in 1997, so it's been a progress several drafts later, but it's a film that raises awareness about breast cancer. But what I want people to know is that it's not just about breast cancer.
Okay.
It's a story about a lot of things, but it's about forgiveness, it's about love, it's about not being afraid to take risk in life.
Forgiveness, love, not taking risk. Let's talk about not taking risk. Go there for a second with
I
us.
want people to not be afraid to take risk.
Okay.
You know, everything that you do that's positive and productive, I think, in our lives is going to involve us taking risk.
Okay.
Involve us stepping out in faith, you know, coming out of our comfort zone. And that is how the title derived.
Now, were you in your comfort zone when you wrote the movie?
I think definitely before I started writing it. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. But at that point is when I decided losing her, I think is when I decided I have to do something extraordinary with my life.
Okay.
More than just punching a clock, a 9 to
Sure,
5. I
sure.
felt like from there I had to do something beyond that.
Okay. And writing, Jump In, and producing it, and then later doing This Life Ain't Pretty was all a part of doing something different.
Yes.
And taking a risk.
Yes.
Now, what were you risking? What would you lose? What could you lose?
Well, number one, time, because time is priceless.
That's it. Yes,
so
it is.
It takes a lot of time to learn about the craft, to go to these workshops and film festivals. Money.
Could lose money, lose time.
Yeah, I just think that just stepping out there in faith, you know,
Okay.
just to see, okay, what will happen if I do this?
Now, did you write in high school?
Not really. No, I had a teacher tell me like in the 4th grade that I was a good writer, and I never forgot that, but
Okay.
I can't say that it was something that I did often.
So, 4th grade, you're a good writer. Next thing we know, you're how old and you're writing a screenplay?
I was 24, I think, when I started writing.
Okay, so we go from that's a whole bunch of years in between. Were you writing something in between?
In college.
What did you write? Like book
Papers,
reports and papers
yeah,
like that?
things like that. You know,
Okay.
maybe a poem here and there.
Okay.
But yeah, but I knew I had to be going to school to do something.
Okay.
You know, at that point, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But after going through that with my cousin, I really seriously started thinking about it.
Okay. So now Jump In has an element of a young woman. Tell us some of the characters, a little bit about Jump In.
Okay. My lead in the film is Troy Alexander, which is portrayed by Shery Pitman, an actress out of Chicago. She is a single parent, recent law school graduate, and she's studying for the bar to start her own practice.
Okay.
And she is on the other side of a divorce. So
Okay.
she is back in her hometown, working through some issues that she left behind between her and her mother.
I
She
see.
revisits some of those issues.
Okay. And so she is in law school, and I don't know how much of the story, because it hasn't come out yet, that you want to give away. But the main thing you want for the audience to know about forgiveness. So I presume she maybe has to forgive, and you don't have to give it all away. So,
Okay.
but I presume you say she's working through some issues back home. So I'm
Right.
assuming there's some forgiveness somewhere in there.
Absolutely.
And then taking a risk. Where does she take a risk, or maybe more importantly than where she takes a risk, where is it that you think that most of us probably should take more of a risk in our lives?
Career and love. And in this, she is taking a risk, I guess, in both those areas.
Okay.
Mainly in love, though. Because, like I said, she has just gone through a divorce. So really right now for her, love is just could only be a distraction.
I see.
It's the last thing that she wants right now.
It's time for her to be healing versus loving necessarily.
Exactly.
Loving herself, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said something else. You wanted to see African American characters in positive roles.
Absolutely.
And this particular movie, we have a series of professionals. Give us an idea as to what the occupations of those professionals are.
Okay. We have some entrepreneurs. I have one character that is a masseuse. She owns and operates her own business. Her husband, in this case, is an architect, so he designs and builds. We have another character, which is her love interest in the film. He's a school teacher. So, and as I said with her, she's a law school graduate and wants to start her own practice. So, yeah, I like to, I'm conscious about the images that we put out there on screen. And I think as writers and producers, we have a lot to say and do to impact that.
Do you think that as as screenplay writers that we should be more conscientious about putting positive images out? And do you think that it should be balanced? If we look at our population base and not just African Americans, but just in general, and if we see that we have, I'm just exaggerating here, 80% do nothings, which our country would be in pretty bad shape, but and 20% do something. Do you think that the screenplays should reflect what society actually looks like?
To a degree, because we do definitely want our stories, our characters to come off as realistic and attainable, I guess. But at the same time, yeah, I think there has to be some balance. I can't say that my characters are a direct reflection of what I see when I step out my house, no. But in my mind, those are the types of characters and people that I think I would like to see.
And those types of characters do exist.
Oh, yeah.
We do have black females in law school. We do have African American business owners, architects. I personally know someone in all of those categories. So I guess I could say when I walk outside of my door, and I think that's a good thing. I think that there should be a sense of responsibility. This is kind of a social statement that as screenwriters, there is a power that is wielded by the screen, the big screen, the silver screen, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that as role models, whether or not we think it should be role models or not, we have plenty of young people that are watching, and they are like taking cues that this is the way it should be. So I think that there should be maybe a higher standard rather than a lower standard. But
I agree.
All too often it seems like that the desire that human nature sometimes have for the taboo seems to be the driving force to say, come see what's taboo. Right. What do you have to say about that?
I think that's true. But I think in my own case, I feel like, and you touched on it earlier, there's a sense of responsibility and accountability to our community, to our parents, to what we put out there. Because people do. I mean, people say, oh, yeah, you know, the TV doesn't raise your kids, you do. And I mean, I think there are pros and cons with that. But we all know we are impacted by what we watch.
Oh, absolutely.
We are.
Absolutely. Not to take any thunder away or anything, and I know we probably don't have a whole lot of time, but Steven Spielberg, nobody's going to tell me that when I watch one of his movies, I am not impacted. It's just not, I'm not going to believe it, because the fact of the matter is, if I watch one of his movies, and I don't even have to watch the whole thing, it can be 10 minutes. Lo and behold, I'm going to be scared to go to the next room with the light off. Right. I am impacted.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay, well, tell us the impact that you would like for Jump In to have.
To forgive. To not be afraid to love, because I think, and especially in the times that we're in right now with the economy, you have more people getting divorced. You have more people that are quicker to throw in the towel and say, you know what, I'm walking away from this. And I think one of the themes is we need to work harder. We need to work harder. We can't give up on love because we've had some bad relationships. We can't say that all, you know, men or all women are the same. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I want to show with this film too, is that we're all different, but we're all the same.
Does she, I guess we don't want to give it away, but does the movie end on, well, I don't know. What can you tell us about how the movie ends? Let me put it like that.
I think people will be happy with the ending.
Good.
There was an alternative ending in the beginning. Okay. And we changed it, and I think it was changed for the better.
Well, you know what? I think happy is good, and that goes along with what I know all endings in life are not happy. We've already talked about that with this Life Ain't Pretty. Right. But at the same time, I think we do need to sometimes be encouraged to that hope needs to be offered, and you know, the idea that, as you say, the forgiveness and to love and, you know, to have different perspectives and to take risk.
Right.
To take risk. I like that in how do we say, indelible spirit of man to step forward and do better even when things seem to be bottoming out. Well, we have just a few seconds left. Okay. What one thing you want to tell them about the movie coming up this fall? Okay. Or early fall.
All right. It's a must see. The themes are universal. It's a film for everyone. I think people will find it entertaining. Hopefully people will find it enlightening. If you want to know about updates and to follow the movie, find out when it's going to be available, how things are progressing with the film, we have a couple of different ways you could go with that. My company, Predestined Arts and Entertainment, we've got a website. People can go to the website. We also have a Facebook page, Facebook/JumpInTheMovie.
Great.
And we are also in the process of setting up a page specifically for the film. We'll have a movie trailer available, hopefully, in the next maybe 60 days, and people will have an opportunity to get a sneak peek.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it, Kim.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining us. Join us again on Wednesday mornings, 7 a.m. We'll see you then. Hi, my name is Shery Pitman, and I'd like to just welcome and invite you to join us in watching Survive and Thrive with Shery. We like to talk about marriages and a variety of other things as well, and we just want you to join us. If you have any comments or questions, you can find us on Facebook. We would love to hear your thoughts about shows. If you'd like to be a guest, we would love for you to contact us that way as well. Thank you.